Ooh, what's happening? Um, so I didn't really know what video to make, and then I realized, or like I remembered that I'd watched a movie that I posted in the community section called Seeding. Um, Really, really, really good movie. I didn't expect it to be a good movie. It's on Hulu. I thought it was gonna be like a kind of cheesy, straight out horror movie, which is what some of the reviews kind of made it seem like. Um, if you have Hulu, go watch it. I think it's on Amazon. It is on Amazon Prime too, but you have to pay for it. Um, but it's a really, really like symbolism heavy movie. If you have studied, the more that you've studied, the more that you'll notice in this movie, and it's to the point. There's so much that I'm almost positive I'm gonna miss some things. I'm gonna try to remember everything I can, but really, from scene to scene, most of it has some symbolism to it if you know what to look for. Um, so yeah, movie starts off with a dude by himself. I don't know. It seems like he's maybe some kind of photographer or journalist, maybe something to that effect. But um, he is going to film the eclipse, which I thought was funny. He's filming an eclipse in the middle of a desert. He witnesses the eclipse. Um, there's not a lot of like specific focus put on the eclipse itself. Doesn't take long at all. First 5 minutes of the movie. Then he packs up, gets ready to go. Notices a boy is lost. The boy says he doesn't know where his parents are. Asks if he can help him find him. Then very quickly he says they were this way. And I will say it's a good movie, but any horror movie I watch, I'm always like, this wouldn't happen to me because I'm not going to make these fucking stupid ass decisions that the people make. Random boy in the desert says his parents are this way. I'm gonna feel for that kid, but at the same time, like, I'm not finna follow you into the desert. That's just not, you know what I mean? Maybe I watch too many horror movies, but that's just what it is. Anyway, he follows this kid into the desert, starts asking him questions like, "Are you sure they're this way?" Gives him some water. Even the boy kind of like just pours the shit out, kind of wasting his water intentionally. It seems like, from my perspective, keeps following him. As they keep going, this kid starts talking shit to the dude. He starts talking shit to him, like, cussing at him, calling him names and shit like that, almost kind of negging him in a way, which I thought was really funny. That shit made me laugh. Um, he keeps following him until it gets dark. Dusk happens, and this dude is still following this kid trying to help. And bless his heart, I guess, for trying to help him. But at the same time, like I said, you know what I mean? You don't know if this is some kind of setup or whatever. Anyway, um, I can't remember exactly how. I maybe should have rewatched it, but there's so much shit from this movie going through my mind, all the symbolism and the different cultural influences that I just wanted to get going on it. But they come up to this um, like they're in the desert, they're walking on obviously level ground, but then they come to this area. It's like an enclosure that's below ground level, so it's like a canyon. um there is a house in the middle of this canyon, and again, I'm trying to remember how he gets him to climb down into this place. But okay, no, so he gets lost. The boy is gone. He can't find his way back to his car. But then he notices this canyon that they've obviously, kind of corralled him to. He sees a ladder. He climbs down the ladder to try to get some help, getting back to his car. There is, at the moment, a mute woman that is living in this place. mostly mute. She offers him the niceties of some water and something to eat. They talk very little throughout this exchange, and he's insistent upon getting back to his car, but she's like, nah, just eat some food and post up here for the night. He's apprehensive about it. Finally, some apprehension after doing all that stupid shit he did at the beginning. But he accepts that. And by the time he wakes up in the morning to try again to go find his car, ladder's gone. So now you're stuck in this canyon, right? You're stuck in this canyon with this strange woman that is essentially, seemingly just living in this very, very, it's like a fortress of solitude. Like there's, from what he can tell, from your perspective as him, there's no way to get out unless the ladder is there. When he asks about the ladder, she says that sometimes people borrow it. That's her explanation, is that sometimes people borrow it. Doesn't make any difference to her. This is where she lives. And, this is when you start to feel a bit of dread, you know what I mean, for the situation. If you're not already feeling it. Honestly, when you start to see him following this kid and the kid's talking shit to him and dusk is happening, maybe it's the pretense of the fact that you're watching a horror movie. Even without that, though, just off of life experience, you would maybe think to yourself, like, this is probably a bad idea. You know what I mean? Probably a bad idea. So, anyway, people borrow the ladder. So the ladder has been taken, and he can now not leave this canyon. She says, don't worry about it. They'll bring it back soon. Stupid. And they start to, talk a little bit. She's not very forthcoming about herself or about her circumstances, why she's here, all of those things. Very cryptic in the way that she responds to things. Then, and I'm definitely watch the movie because I'm gonna skip over some stuff. I watched it a while ago, but there's a lot that I can remember as far as symbolism goes anyway. So time passes, more time than you would be comfortable with if you were this person. Obviously he starts to get a little discombobulated and frustrated with that, but I think even another day passes and he's starting to get freaked out. But then at some point, more than just this one boy, a group of boys come and bring supplies, and they lower the supplies into, their encampment. And, it's she even says, I believe, that it's everything that they'll need. Including alcohol. They bring alcohol too, which comes back around later. But food, seeds to grow things, just supplies. And the reason I'm kind of going into this is because when you look back at these things after you start to realize what the movie is, all of it is symbolism. All of it is symbolism. In fact, I'll just get into that because I don't think I'm going to set it up anymore. I'm just going to kind of go through and say what other symbols are within these scenes. So, and I'm going to skip around too because it's all over the place. So, to me, this is the story of man, and I don't mean that in a gender specific way. Just the story of man versus the concept of deities or of higher selves. Because if you think about it, it starts off with him very, very technologically advanced. He's got a nice telescope camera. He's driving a car. He's into science. He's observing the cosmos, or he's observing what he can see above him. Let's put it like that. He comes from an area that has more beings like him that are also technologically advanced. They have the capabilities to do certain things, and they're sophisticated and so on and so forth. He goes out to a remote area by himself. He's whisked away by what seems to be a child, just an innocent child, and is dropped lower in consciousness to this remote area where he can't get out. He's not able to get out. He's only provided with things that he needs from someone else's perspective. And from this point, once he's in this, lower area, this lower consciousness, anything that he wants or needs is, or not wants, anything that he needs is provided to him by those that are above him in consciousness, but not necessarily smarter than him or more powerful than him or more intelligent than him. They're just still where he came from. And so that's where I get the concept of there being Gnostic symbolism and Gnostic influence. If you're familiar with the Gnostic texts, the thought behind it is that we come those deities, and this is we're in a drop of consciousness. We're in a lower state of consciousness, but we are at the same level, if not above those that many people refer to as archons, right? Yaldabaoth, Yaldabaoth, Sophia, all these deities are not necessarily above you. In fact, you have the capability of being as powerful or more powerful and intelligent as them. And you can see that symbolism in this because he starts off on the same level as these kids, as these boys that are, giving them their supplies. Not only that, but they start to torture him in a sense. At least it's physical too, but mentally, they're throwing rocks at him. They're playing tricks on him, pranks on him, and things of that nature, giving him hope that he can rise back up, that he can elevate himself back to their level, back to their state, which is fully possible, if not physically, though. He even tries to climb out of this state, but falls. In fact, I think they actually knock him back down, which is symbolism in itself. But I think even it's somewhat telling that they're younger than him. They're less mature than he is, but they're on an elevated state from his, due to their own meddling, due to their influence and their manipulation. After a specific amount of time, he starts to forget that he started, not that he started on that level, but that he started on the same level as them. And in fact, he, remembers that they're younger than him and that he's smarter, but when you're at a state where these beings are the ones that are providing you with your sustenance, with your tools, with so on and so forth, you have no choice but to look at them as metaphorically above you as well as physically above you. They control your food. They control your capability to escape. They can, inflict things upon you. They can take things away from you. So he settles in. He settles into this, and as he does, he starts to almost kind of like, he starts to get Stockholm syndrome. He starts to warm up to this mysterious woman. She starts to open up to him, seemingly, and tell him, of her mother. There's pictures in the house of this woman that she calls mother, the mother before her, which is to me a direct reference to the Sophia. Not necessarily the wisdom aspect, but the mother aspect. And you could say maybe later on in the movie she displays some wisdom. Who knows? Because that's not the focus of what her character is supposed to be. And also, so the boys that keep kind of showing up to look down into this almost like terrarium that they've put him in, and observe and laugh and fuck with him and stuff like that. They're all named after constellations which, if you're familiar with why constellations are named what they're named, those have backstories. They're Orion, Corvus, Lepus. These are all not only constellations, but they have mythology behind them. Many people are familiar with Orion, but Corvus and Lepus also are constellations. One means hare, Lepus means hare, and Corvus means raven or crow. So these boys are named after constellations. They're above him for most of the story. He has to look up to see them, and they're kind of like fucking with him. They're giving him things sometimes. He becomes so kind of like strung out with life that anytime they give him supplies, he's just thankful for it. Though, like, he is their prisoner in a sense. And, as the movie keeps going along, you see certain things, like he starts to help her grow the crops, and they become important to him. And at some point they get kind of like fucked up a little bit, and he gets pissed off, and she just starts fixing it. And then he looks over at her, realizes that he's losing his cool, and starts to help her fix it. And so he starts to lose himself in a sense of, before this happened to him, he was very aware of the vastness of existence, the vastness of his surroundings, and he could go to all these different places on his own accord and study and learn and research. But then he falls into this place that is very, very concealed and, as I said, like a terrarium. And he loses that. It becomes just this terrarium that he's aware of. He even forgets that there are things outside of this terrarium. He just knows that he wants to get out. And so it's something where you can see the correlation between the fall of man from the higher self, the deified self, into this density, as people call it. There's lots of different ways to look at it, but it's almost like how many talk about how we just need to remember our higher selves. We need to remember our capabilities. We need to remember this and that. There's a correlation in the movie to that, where he, because of his circumstances, because he's stuck in this terrarium, this cavern, he forgets those things, and he becomes just this simple man that is surviving and is farming in this area with this woman that he's just recently come into contact with. He forgets the people outside of this area. He forgets the capabilities outside of this area because they don't matter anymore. He knows he wants to get back to it, but he doesn't think about much past that, because why would you? Unless you can get back to it, you're just kind of causing yourself more pain to think about what's outside of this enclosure. So yeah, it continues, and you start to see that there's some reasoning behind some of the stuff that they're doing. In one sense, or in one situation, he starts talking to one of the boys. You start to see some like apprehension and maybe even some regret, or like, maybe I should help this dude, in this one boy. And he talks to him. He almost gets him to help him. I think his name's not Frog. I can't remember what his name is, but it might actually be Frog. I'm not sure. But one of the other boys, I think Corvus, catches him and asks him a question, red or blue? And he picks red, and the boy whispers to himself, should have picked blue. Now, they don't ever explain what that means, but there's lots of interpretations on color, depending on what text you're looking at, depending on what, system of thought you're looking at. But in any sense, he says he should have picked red, so I'm going to go with the fact that if he would have picked blue, there would have been a different outcome for him. Who the fuck knows? But they start doing rituals while he's like drunk and asleep. At one point, frustration overtakes him, along with a whole fuckload of alcohol. and he has sex with this woman. She does entice him though. Like throughout the movie, she's doing little shit. At first, it seems like she's like just been alone for so long that she doesn't realize that he can see her from the room take off her clothes. But you come to realize, like, nah, she's doing that on purpose. She did that on purpose to kind of plant a seed in his mind, and then later on it comes back, and she does that again, but does it knowingly from his perspective, like not just she's in another room putting not putting on lotion, but she's washing herself with a towel because there's no shower. So she sits on a bed and washes herself with a towel. This time she just takes her clothes off and sits on the bed and is inviting him in after they've, had a lot to drink together. So obviously there's no contraception in this enclosure. So he's kind of lost hope in a sense because he's not worried about the possibility of siring a child with this woman that he knows very little about other than they're sharing this space. So that happens. Almost instantly she tells him, I'm pregnant. And you get a sense of like this is metaphysical, the pregnancy, because obviously how would she know that she's pregnant? It's also obvious that this was like prompted by not only her but the demiurge, the boys, the constellations that are above, the deities, the gods that are above, gods above, and they do like rituals when he's not cognizant of it. Like if he's asleep and drunk, or if he's while they were having sex they were chanting. Like you start to see the ritualistic nature of what's happening. It's not, none of this is coincidence. They're not just doing it for fun, though it seems like they're doing it for fun because there's lots of laughing and pranking and messed up shit happening to them, torturous type stuff. But it's all, it has a purpose. The chanting during the having sex was very creepy. They're just standing on this ledge above the enclosure, like chanting and getting more and more hype about it. The shit's fucking weird. But you start to get a sense that the whole reason for this is to use this man's iteration, his vessel, his his being, his spark, to create a new being. And they don't ever say whether or not this woman is of the same being as him, or if she's some sort of metaphysical being, or whatever, what have you. But the purpose of it is to bring this new life into this enclosure, not the entirety of existence, but into this enclosure. And at some point she lets him know that those are her sons. The constellations above are all her sons, which you can also draw a correlation to Sophia and the demiurge and Yaldabaoth and all that stuff. Even the way that they behave, they're not intelligent in the way that they manage this enclosure. They know the bare minimum things they need to do to keep it going, which is to provide health and provide supplies, but they're not making sure that he's mentally sound or healthy. They're not. In fact, they're kind of shitting on him. They're making fun of him, pranking him, and all this stuff. And when she becomes pregnant, his better nature takes over, and it kind of wipes the frustration that he has, because sometimes he gets pissed. He gets pissed at her when he notices, like, yeah, this is happening on purpose, and you know more than you're telling me. All that gets washed away by the fact that now she's pregnant with his child. She has his seed within him. I keep saying seed on purpose, obviously, because that's a theme of the writing. Also, I don't know how intentional all this is on the writer's side. He in an interview, it sounded like a lot of it was just because this is inspired by another movie called The Woman in the Desert or something like that. I believe it's like a Japanese movie. But, you know, it would be weird if there were this much symbolism and he's just like, I don't know, I just kind of did it. In any sense, though, she becomes pregnant, and you start to see like all of this is like a thing. This isn't, none of it is accidental. She's not nearly as like innocent, or like she's definitely not trapped. The whole time he thinks that she's also being kept here, but over time you start to notice like, nah, if she could leave, she would. In fact, if you're not an idiot like this dude, you would say there was a ladder. Why didn't she climb out when she had the chance? She's afraid of some boys. Wouldn't you get frustrated to the point of, fuck it, I'm just gonna try anyway, I need to escape? If you wanted to escape, he doesn't think about any of these things. I think even that is like a point to man, and how complacency and comfort, or situational comfort, can like take over your better sense of things, can take over your sight, and keep you from seeing things that are right in your face. Anyway, she gets pregnant, and she's very happy about it. You can tell that this is something that she planned from the start. That was the whole reason for this from the start, which also lets you know that not only did the constellations, the gods above, put him there for this purpose, but she plays a part in that. Once he realizes this and, gets upset, immediately they lock him in a cage like an animal. They lock him in a cage like an animal for months, obviously, because he grows a beard, his hair becomes disheveled and stringy and shit. He starts to, literally behave like an animal. At some point, a hiker comes and is looking into the canyon, and he becomes, very hopeful and excited, and like kind of whisper yells for her to go get help. And she says she's going to, gets caught, gets killed, and it crushes him. While he's in this cage also, they do some kind of ritual. It's not necessarily clear from what I can remember what the ritual is for, but it's obviously got something to do with, the coming of this, I won't say Christ figure, because it's not clear. They don't say anything about that. They really don't go, anyway, they don't go past that. But he starts to realize that if he goes along with what they're saying they want to do, there's more of a possibility, at least, of him being able to like be free from this cage. So it's like they take him from this enclosure and put him in a smaller enclosure, and it changes his sight again. Instead of pushing against and fighting against and keeping his sovereignty as he did when he was on the same level as her, they put him in a further enclosure and create more of a prison for him, and it gives him a different vantage point. It gives him a different perspective on what he should do and what he needs to do to reattain his freedom, to reattain the freedom that he had before that. Not the same freedom he had on their level, on the level of the constellations, just the freedom that he had when he was on the same level as this kind of Sophia character. And so the child is born. He's telling her that he'll raise the child with her. It's out of desperation, but he does say that to her. And they kill him. They kill him. They spill his blood into the soil. It's a cyclical thing, because remember, she mentions that there was a mother before her, and all she knows of her is that she was wise and that she loved her, Sophia. So like, the level to which there's esoteric and Gnostic symbolism and influence in this movie is more than I can even put into, not more than I can put into one video, but off of memory, there's so much that I can't even recall all of it. I'm sure I would be able to recall more if I watched more recently, but I just wanted to get it out. It's a really good movie. If you have studied a lot, you'll notice a lot. Even, some shit that I didn't say in this video. I don't know. I may watch, and if there's some shit that's worth talking about that I missed, I may put it up, but probably not. You should just go watch it. It's a good movie. That's it. If you want to donate to the channel, it could definitely be used in recent in recent situations. It is it's on the channel. It'll probably be in the description. It's gonna take me a minute to get back into this. I feel weird again asking for donations, but I do need them. So I'll get, better with all this first video back. Go watch that movie Seeding. It's on Hulu, also on Amazon Prime, but it costs money, so whatever. I love you, and I appreciate you hearing me out. Okay, bye. Bye.